with us on expression in music to one of my favorite pieces. So I'm just going to enjoy that part of it. So, David Holsinger.
Thank you. All right. You know, I'm supposed to do this same program with the Colorado Bandmasters without a band. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do that, but we'll get to that when I pass out when I can tomorrow. I'll see what else happens there. But expression, of course, obviously this morning, expression in music is just where it's at for me. I'm sorry, I'm just an old fogey about that, but I just think it's just cannot be lost, and many times it has been lost. Now, what I'm going to do eventually today is I want to kind of go over something that my wife and I have used forever. When I went to college, we studied the Band book, you know, this expression in music, and my band directors were firm believers in it because the band directors before them had been firm believers in it, etc. Just passed up through the generations, so to speak. And we'll talk about that book in a minute, kind of thing. But it's we discovered that what I'm going to show you today is very elementary, but it's very elementary in presentation, but it can change things that well, in some cases you just won't believe what it'll do, because and my wife and I start this literally in beginning band talking about these aspects, these attributes of expression that we're going to talk about this afternoon. First of all, I am going to read to you, because I can't really have this memorized, but I want to read this is an essay article I'm working on right now, but I wanted to kind of clarify where we're going today and why we're doing what we do. It was almost alarming how many emails I received from supervising teachers following a recent interview in the Instrumentalist magazine concerning inexperienced student-teacher conductors and their lack of fix-it knowledge. A number of the writers mentioned that their student teachers admitted that although they knew something was wrong in the music they were conducting, they couldn't figure out what it was or how to address it. That is somewhat an indictment on two fronts. First, we who teach the young conductors are obviously missing something in our methods, and those young conductors who sit in our ensembles day after day as playing musicians are not paying attention. At best, they are not realizing that all is being poured into them day after day is meant to be musically articulated and poured back out on others in the future. Admittedly, most student teachers go out with only 2 semesters of classroom instruction in conducting as part of their degree program. In some smaller colleges, there may be only 1 class of conducting offered. And unless the students get to conduct on some regular arena on campus, there's only enough time to teach the basic patterns or book gestures in 1 semester. Of course, there is a wealth of conducting tips found daily in professional magazines and on the internet that deal with the artistry of conducting. But I think the alarm I hear from supervising teachers is not concerned with knowing a beat pattern or how pretty they look in the execution, but rather with knowing how to think and express to young musicians the essence of musical expression. I'm chuckling a minute because my wife teaches the fundamentals of conducting. I have to do this. And every once in a while, the young conductors would come in with no fundamentals. She had one guy, we always use an example. Well, we use an example because he's now on our faculty. So he has to face this up. But he came into, this is elementary conducting, doing 4/4, and Harry gets up and he goes, and my wife, who's pretty much a straight arrow guy, was going, wait, what are you doing? What is this thing up here? And Perry replies, I thought it looked pretty. Well, our problem with young conductors sometimes is things they think look pretty don't really do anything, you know, and so to get beyond that, but that's not really what we're trying to hear today. I'm going to do a conducting thing in a couple of days, but I just, every time I read that sentence, I just always think of Perry and his little twirl at the end. Yeah. He almost did it in a 5th beat every time he did. I'm not quite sure how he would get by if he actually had real people in front of him. Well, I am constantly encouraging, most of the time, literally demanding that my musicians develop fundamental truths about music. That each of them develop a belief system about specific aspects of music. Obviously, I believe that being a conductor is more about being a teacher than being an artiste. And yes, I'm assuming that the teacher is taught the foundations of the physical aspects of playing an instrument. And yes, I'm assuming that the ensemble is past the point of right notes in the right places in their musical journey. What I'm concerned about is that young conductors lack the personal, musical, and expressive attributes that they really believe are essential in producing fine musical performances. Admittedly, every conducting class serves a mass of handouts detailing the facts of conducting. I have several that I have collected over the years, one with 28 separate items and sub-items, another with literally a different list of 38 a conductor should items, and a final list of 11 functions of a conductor that I borrowed from a colleague I respect, actually from the States. And the problem with facts is that, unlike the music history exam of tropes and lauds, and no offense to musicology buffs in the audience, just regurgitating the facts on the final exam doesn't close the door to your commitment on the conducting subject. When I arrived at the university in 1999, I assumed I was there primarily to teach young composers. I was wrong. I was there to teach the future of our profession. Winona and I, my wife, and I were there to ensure that all young conductors and teachers walked into their first jobs musically armed and dangerous. That each young charge left our classes with more than a beat pattern and a couple of fancy moves. That each conductor left us with a musical belief system. That each young teacher left with concepts about line and texture and contour and all the attributes of expression firmly ingrained in them, almost religiously. No pun intended, I do teach at a Christian college. So that when they stepped in front of their first ensemble, there was not a cloud of anxiety shouting, "What the heck do I fix?" But rather they stand confident saying, "These are the ways of music. Let me take you for the ride of your lives." That's what I believe about conducting an expression. I had this friend named Tom Hall. Tom Hall was a band director in Aledo, Texas, a little farm town, and I would go out there every year and conduct his band when we got ready for contests. And marvelous musicians, and he was a marvelous band director. And